Hello guys, this is Jack, and today we're going to be talking about Die My Love. This is the new Lynn Ramsey film. I want to say a lot of things about this movie because I just recently saw it back on Friday, and I've been dying to see this movie, no pun intended, for a little bit since I've been kind of a fan of Lynn Ramsey's filmography ever since the last movie she did with Joaquin Phoenix. And I think here she delivers another great film dealing with like the human connection and also the depravity of humanity. And I want to go super deep into it. I'm going to spoil a few things in this review, so if you want to, back out once I start to spoil the movie, you can. But for now, I'm just going to lay down the plot, talk about the performances with this film, and then eventually I'll get into like the spoilery stuff. So let's dive into Die My Love. So Die My Love is basically about two people. You have Jennifer Lawrence, who is playing a mother who recently birthed a baby. And from there, Jennifer Lawrence's character and Robert Pattinson's character move to a rural area in the middle of the country. And they're living a couple blocks from their relatives, and also at the same time they're trying to figure out how to raise this baby while Jennifer Lawrence's character starts to have signs of manic depression and postpartum depression. And from here, the movie starts with just a forest on fire, and you see these two characters having sex in the house that they just got. And from there, the film progresses into a series of vignettes, flash forwarding and flashing back to times where Jennifer Lawrence's character, Grace, is going through the signs of manic depression and postpartum depression. And the film is very fragmented. It's showing a lot of scenes where it's completely out of order. You have moments where she is pregnant and other scenes where she's not pregnant and she has the kid already. And you'll also have scenes where the film is trying to play a lot with like dream logic, with Jennifer Lawrence's character Grace dreaming up a relationship with Lakeith Stanfield's character Carl, who doesn't exist but is a kind of middle of the situation type of character who will kind of move the plot forward for Grace as she's going through this troubling time in her life. And from there, the whole film kind of plays a lot with time and dream logic. And I think Lynn Ramsey is unafraid of just letting things go as it seems with these types of really terrible sequences of manic depression. And I think this is where a lot of general audiences will not enjoy the experience because it is very heavy, very visceral. There's a lot of long scenes of characters freaking out, crashing out, doing crazy things to kind of one-up each other. And yeah, this film is very visceral, and I, for once, was really seated for how Lynn Ramsey handled this story. She's no stranger to these types of stories. We Need to Talk About Kevin was one film that really dealt with human connection, but also in a way where it was about a serial killer who is, a kid, but then eventually turns into a killer, and the mother has to kind of live with that outcome of the situation. And this is another film where these characters are not likable, but are in a way reflective of our, modern times. And Jennifer Lawrence's performance in this film is just absolutely incredible. It's one of her best performances probably since Mother, where she is very totally relatable in her presence as far as trying to deal with raising this baby while also her husband is clamping down her own self and also trying to domesticate her to this rural life. And Jennifer Lawrence plays this character with such tenacity and also very crazy humor. There's moments where she's throwing a lot of like sarcasm in her way she's of talking to characters, and also herself, the way she presents herself. She's slowly slipping apart as a person as you're following her throughout the film. There's a moment where she's at a party and someone's talking about, oh, do you want another kid? And she's kind of playing with like the sarcasm of like, oh, I don't want another kid, that's like too much. And then there's other moments where you're following her as she's dreaming about like this relationship with Lakeith Stanfield's character Carl, and you kind of understand where she's at her lowest and where she wants to be past the relationship with Robert Pattinson's character Jackson. And speaking of Robert Pattinson, his performance in this is really, really also great. He kind of matches the energy of Jennifer Lawrence's character, as from the start you kind of relate to him. He's trying to like help everybody. He's trying to make sure this manic depressive episodes aren't destroying the family. But then as the film progresses, you start to relate to him less, and you're more focusing on the nuances of like the relationship, and also kind of like siding with Jennifer Lawrence, who's like totally freaking out the whole entire time. Also, she does do like a lot of like dumb decisions towards the end of the film where it kind of just goes, I don't know about that, but I understand what you're going through. But yeah, like I think Robert Pattinson's performance in this is also really great. Lakeith Stanfield only shows up for like a few minutes here and there in the film, but he does his job pretty well. Also, Sissy Spacek, who I haven't seen in a really long time. She plays the mother of, I think, Robert Pattinson's character Jackson. And from there, like, she's kind of the mediator of the situation. She's trying to help Jennifer Lawrence's character with the baby and like the situation, but also at the same time, she's having trouble sleeping after her husband passed away, played by Nick Nolte. And it's a whole actually funny story of like why Nick Nolte's character passed away. But it's also kind of weird because Sissy Spacek is playing kind of like the opposite of her character in like Three Women, the Robert Altman film, where she was playing kind of like the dream logic girl who is going through some terrible things with the other character in that film. But it's flipped here where she's the crazy girl from Three Women, and she's constantly like sleepwalking on the side of like the road in the middle of the night. But also she's going through a lot of trauma in her life, and it also kind of like reflects with Jennifer Lawrence's character, who's going through her manic depression. And Nick Nolte only appears in a few minutes of the film in the beginning and then kind of disappears, but he's in the background kind of in a wandering space. But other than that, I think Lynn Ramsey, her direction in this is very fragmented and visceral to a point, and she uses a lot of great musical needle drops. There's a Cream needle drop, and then it just kind of like transitions into like a Bambi soundtrack song, and then weirdly a Raffi song. But it's probably because it's dealing with, you know, adolescence with the kid who's a baby and is trying to like live out this life while a lot of things are happening around them. But yeah, like this film was just utterly like fascinating. It plays super deep into the idea of motherhood and how a lot of these mothers who birth babies eventually kind of have moments of like depression, and that is of course postpartum depression and manic depression, lesser manic depression, because it could actually lead to that. But I think Lynn Ramsey is unafraid of showing all those signs of depression in a way where it's told to kind of not really piss off audiences, but really put them in a spot throughout. And it really kind of like made me think about what these people go through when they have their child and they bring their child to the world and they just don't feel right or off in this world. But yeah, I thought this movie was just utterly fantastic. Going into spoilers real quick, spoiler alert. I do think this film really kind of goes deep into like the dream logic, as once again, like Jennifer Lawrence's character Grace, she's dreaming up these like logic scenarios with Lakeith Stanfield. They're having sex in the farmhouse, and then eventually there's a moment where she's dreaming up a scenario of trying to take care of Lakeith Stanfield's character while their family is like out in the parking lot. And it's kind of like a weird thing where she's trying to kind of like seduce Lakeith Stanfield's character, but like the wife of Lakeith Stanfield's character is going like, what the fuck, like let's leave her alone. And I think it was also kind of like representative of what Jennifer Lawrence's character is going through. She wants like the perfect family, but in the end, she can't get it because of Robert Pattinson's character trying to domesticate her. And there's scenes where you're following Grace, Jennifer Lawrence's character, as she's crawling like on all fours, acting like a dog. There's moments where she's licking the window, trying to like escape from her cage. And there's also a moment in the film where Robert Pattinson's character gets a dog instead of a cat. It was a whole thing where Grace wanted a cat. She's asking for a cat. And for some reason, Robert Pattinson's character gets a dog, and the dog keeps on barking every day, annoying her to the point where she wakes up in the middle of the night, she gets the shotgun, and she tells Jackson, like, I want to kill the dog. I want to kill the dog. And, you know, Jackson's like, no, what the fuck? Like, don't kill the dog. And then she does it. And I think that kind of like represents the domestication of people who are trapped in a relationship of sorrow and terror, and they can't escape, so they have to find a way out. And I think Grace, her shooting the dog, represents her own life, even though she's still caged in later in the film with just everything that's happening in her life. But yeah, I think this film is very, very fascinating, and I'm definitely gonna watch it again. Again, I give this a 4.5 out of 5. In terms of like awards predictions, I don't think this movie's gonna go anywhere. I think Jennifer Lawrence, her performance in this is just utterly like fantastic, one of the best of the year. But if she is going to get nominated for some places, especially Golden Globes, SAG, Oscars, I think this film needs to kind of also come along with it, especially with Lynn Ramsey's direction, Robert Pattinson's performance in this film. Yeah, and if those things don't happen, then yeah, it's not gonna happen. But yeah, that's basically it. I don't really have anything too much to say about this film. Check it out. It's crazy that like Mubi is releasing this film over 1,000 theaters. They're using their substance money to bring this word and film out. I do think this film is very closed in and not for general audiences, but if they do really enjoy it, you know, thank you, because I think this film is just utterly fantastic. So with If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, this is a really interesting film because it's kind of a film that I saw a couple weeks ago during the New York Film Festival adventure, and even after watching this film, just this week I saw Die My Love, and it kind of has the same parallels as far as taking place in modern times and also dealing with mothers who are going through a lot of emotional baggage. This film is another film where it's dealing with postpartum depression, but it's told in a way where it's very anxiety driven. And I'll say this really quick, it does remind me of Uncut Gems, but for mothers. And also a little bit of like Night Bitch, which came out last year, which was kind of more of a Tumblr-esque dark comedy with a lot of weird stuff that was happening, but it was also because of the central performance of Amy Adams. This is more different. It's very like moving forward into like the anxiety. As Linda, played by Rose Byrne, from the beginning, her apartment is just destroyed. There's water damage. She's going through a lot of stuff in her life. Her husband is away from the kid. The daughter, who isn't shown throughout the entire film, only her voice is heard, and it's told in a way where it gives you a lot of perspective on what Linda is going through in her life mentally. And Linda works at this like therapist office, and she's getting clients who are going through a lot. There's this one client who was played by one of the actresses in Bird Box. And she's kind of like at a point where she wants to abandon her baby. And that kind of parallels with Linda, who is kind of on the fritz and fringe of abandoning her daughter because of just the way her daughter is acting out throughout this entire film. And then also on top of that, she's living in a motel while her apartment is being fixed up, and she befriends A$AP Rocky, who is one of the tenants in the motel, and he's, you know, drug dealing, but also at the same time he's very nice about it. And Linda and A$AP Rocky's character, they both have like this kind of funny relationship that is kind of like off balance, but also at the same time they're a hilarious duo. And then Conan O'Brien plays one of the therapists inside of Linda's office, and he's the one who's also administering Linda's therapy sessions because they're both in a session together talking it out, and Linda is trying her hardest to kind of spill all of the tea in her life, but she can't because everything around her is just overwhelming. So you have all these character developments going in and out of the film, and I think this film, Mary Bronstein, her direction in this is very anxiety driven. It's filled with a lot of dread, but also at the same time, it's utterly hilarious. There are some moments in this film where it goes places where you would never expect, especially with Rose Byrne's character, who at the start of the film you relate to her, but as the film progresses, you start to kind of question her morals, question her decisions, especially in moments where you can kind of tell that she's about to abandon her daughter just because of the way she's acting out in these situations. And it gets really, really heavy way past the 30-minute mark. There's also a moment where there's an animal that is adopted and then eventually is kind of a catalyst of the anxiety of the daughter's situation. And then you also have A$AP Rocky, who is basically just playing himself. He's actually more vibrant here than in The Five Bloods, where he's only there in spurts, and he is the character who is driving the force of the film in that movie. But here, he's a very great background character, and he does have a moment near the end of his arc, which is just utterly hilarious. But yeah, like, this film was just fantastic. I'm still thinking about it in the past weeks, ever since I saw this film. And it's probably because of Rose Byrne's performance. This is an Oscar-worthy performance. She's giving her all. I've seen her in a lot of films. She was in Sinister. She was in a lot of like the comedy movies in the early 2010s, and she is a really great, versatile performer. She can play comedy up really well, but also she can be very dramatic, and you can kind of feel for her characters. And this is another character where she is very fully committed to the anxiety-driven landscapes, and also just the way Mary Bronstein, her direction goes way past these like anxiety-driven scenarios. And I think Rose Byrne played up her character really damn well, and I think she is definitely the dark horse actor for Best Actress this season. I hope she does get her Oscar nomination this year, even though I think the film itself might piss off a lot of general audiences and voters. But yeah, I think this movie is just utterly fantastic. I've been thinking about it for the past couple weeks, and I think it's a great double feature with Die My Love, which I might actually put these two videos together because I think both of these films deserve some love, and they both get the same rating, 4.5 out of 5. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about this film. I don't want to spoil this film. I want everybody to like enjoy this film for what it is, and in an utter surprise. So again, as in terms of Oscars potential, I don't really see this film fully going unless Rose Byrne gets that nomination, but I think that's the only thing it can get here. And it's going to be an uphill battle, even though some of the films that I recently saw in the past couple weeks have fallen apart, especially Bruce Springsteen, A Rental Family, smaller films like that kind of fallen off the radar. And I think also House of Dynamite is kind of falling off as well. So I think Rose Byrne, she has a really better chance now since we have some films that are kind of falling off. But again, I do think it's going to be an uphill battle. But yeah, that's basically it. Thank you guys so much for checking these videos out. I will be reviewing more films, talking about more award stuff on this channel. And yeah, just keep an eye posted on the videos. Like, subscribe, share, do what you can to spread the word out. Thank you guys so much. Peace out.